My husband and I were in our early 40s, married for 6 wonderful years, when he passed away suddenly a few months ago. It was completely out of the blue, and I've been drowning in grief ever since. Losing him has been the hardest, most devastating thing I've ever faced. Honestly, I've just been trying to get through each day without completely falling apart. When he passed, everything felt like a blur. I could barely think straight, let alone handle all the arrangements that come with losing someone you love. That's where my mother-in-law stepped in. She was grieving too. This was her son, after all, but she immediately offered to handle the funeral expenses. She insisted on taking care of everything, and I let her, not because I expected her to, but because I was so emotionally paralyzed I couldn't even process what was happening. At the time, I was incredibly grateful for her support. Here's where things get complicated. A couple of months after the funeral, as I was trying to piece my life back together, I suddenly remembered that my husband had a small life insurance policy through my job. I hadn't thought about it at all before then. Oh, it was such a minor detail compared to the overwhelming grief I was dealing with. But when I realized, I filed the claim and eventually received a payout. It wasn't a huge sum of money, but it was enough to give me some options. Since my husband passed, I've felt completely untethered. We lived in a place far from my family, and now, with him gone, there's nothing really keeping me here. I've been thinking about moving back across the country to be closer to my parents and siblings, people who can support me as I try to rebuild my life. This money would give me the chance to do that. Maybe help with the move and even serve as a down payment on a small, modest home so I can start over somewhere familiar. When my mother-in-law found out about the insurance payout, everything changed. She was furious. She called me and demanded that I pay her back for the funeral expenses, saying it's only fair since I now have extra money. I was caught completely off guard. I reminded her that she had offered to pay for the funeral, that I never asked her to do so, and at the time I didn't even know the insurance policy existed. But she wouldn't hear it. She accused me of being selfish and heartless, even going so far as to imply that I'm profiting off my husband's death. That cut me deeply. I loved my husband with everything I had. Losing him shattered me, and the idea that someone, especially his mother, thinks I would use his death to my advantage feels like a punch to the gut. My mother-in-law is grieving too. I get that. She lost her son, and there's no pain in the world that compares to that. But her words have been cruel. She's called me names, told me I'm not part of the family anymore, and said she regrets ever helping with the funeral. It's like all the kindness and support she showed me in those early days after his death have evaporated, replaced by resentment. I know she's hurting, but so am I. This money is my chance to start over, to leave this place where every corner, every piece of furniture, and every routine reminds me of what I've lost. It's not like I'm rolling in cash now. The payout wasn't massive, but it's enough to give me a lifeline, a fresh start when I desperately need one. Still, part of me wonders if she's right. Should I give her some of the money as reimbursement for the funeral? Would that ease her pain? Or is she crossing a line by expecting me to repay her for something she offered to do out of love? Or at least, that's what I thought at the time. I've been questioning myself constantly. Am I being selfish? Am I wrong for keeping the money and using it to build a future for myself, even if that means not giving any to her? This whole situation is eating me alive. I feel like I'm failing as a daughter-in-law and as a grieving widow, but I also feel like I have to take care of myself right now. So, am I the a-hole for not giving my late husband's mom any of the life insurance money?